In July 2022, the most expensive study of mindfulness failed to show any benefit. What is worse, it affected the mental health of some people in it. I think this could be the end of mindfulness as we know it. Hey, welcome back to the channel. Today we're gonna take a deep dive into the MYRIAD Study, a study that started in 2016 and involved over 8,000 children aged 11 to 14 from 84 different schools in the UK, and what that might mean for the future of mindfulness. So these children were followed before school term, during the school term where the mindfulness intervention was delivered, and 1 year after the mindfulness intervention finished. And overall, this is the most expensive study to date regarding mindfulness. They spent over $7 million in it. The mindfulness program used in this study is called .B, which is focused on mindfulness sessions from 45 minutes to 1 hour that are delivered during an entire school term, and they are delivered by the teachers. So these teachers underwent a training for 4 days. So what went wrong? Well, I think the first thing that went wrong with this study is that they used to justify their intervention the common idea that the mind can be trained as a muscle. The principal investigator was quote saying, "Just like brushing your teeth or going for a run are well-known ways of protecting general physical health, mindfulness exercises develop mental fitness and resilience." Let's unpack that. While there are characteristics in our brains that can be trained, treating them like a muscle takes away all the complexity that social interactions, chemical interactions, historical interactions, biological interactions make us an individual. We also know from several studies that mindfulness is not a universal mental health tool and can be detrimental for some people. We have known about the diverse effects from meditation and mindfulness since the early 70s, and some Buddhist literature even mentions meditation sickness. The truth is that mindfulness has been helpful to some people, but the magical promise of peace and being in the moment is costing mindfulness its place as a valid mental health tool. So mindfulness just became a quick fix and no one stopped to think about who benefits the most from mindfulness and the training in mental health care that the practitioners of mindfulness have. The Mindfulness in School project say that they weren't surprised about the results of this study because inexperienced people delivered the sessions. Remember, the teachers that delivered these interventions only received a 4-day training. How can we justify ignoring the potential side effects of mindfulness when we are dealing with over 8,000 children? And the truth is that we have two main problems when we have approached the study of mindfulness. First, the truth is that the literature is plagued by methodological errors and it always ignores who benefits the most of mindfulness. And the second thing is how it's being used by professionals that aren't trained formally in mental health care and how it's branded as a method to gain mental fitness. So let's focus on who benefits the most from mindfulness. Studies from the early 2000s show that mindfulness reduced the relapse rates of those who had 3 or more depression episodes, but it increased the relapse rates for those that had 2 or fewer episodes of depression. And more recent studies show that those who benefit the most are those with a history of abuse and trauma during childhood. We still don't know why this difference exists, but it highlights that we have to be really careful on who is recommended mindfulness, especially when we take into account the myriad of resources that we have, apps, books, podcasts. If we are not helpful, we just risk harming others. Some reports indicate that over 60% of people have experienced side effects of mindfulness while engaging in long-term practice. These side effects included depression, anxiety, and even psychosis. The theory is that these negative effects arise from an overwhelming amount of complex feelings. Now, by itself, this is not a problem, but it heavily depends on the context in which they emerge. If we are confronted by difficult feelings in a therapeutic scenario, we can count on the therapist to guide us through those feelings. But if we experience those feelings by ourselves or surrounded by strangers, we might experience unexpected distress. We also should be aware that the benefits of mindfulness have been overhyped. A meta-analysis showed that mindfulness has a moderate effect on depression, anxiety, and quality of life. And another study showed no difference between mindfulness meditation and psychoeducation, that is the same intervention just without meditation. So what do we do about mindfulness? I think that researchers should take mindfulness seriously and approach it without bias. That means that its proponents should stop seeing mindfulness as a one-size-fits-all approach and should focus on who benefits the most from the interventions. Mindfulness shouldn't be treated as a go-to approach rather as an extra tool that can help in specific situations. We also need to start talking openly about the side effects of mindfulness. If we keep ignoring these side effects, we just risk stigmatizing the mindfulness practice and treating it as one that has no place in the serious mental health care. If we keep ignoring the side effects, the practitioners of mindfulness risk failing those that have put the trust on them. Mindfulness experts also have to keep in mind how can they help others new to mindfulness when they experience side effects. On the other hand, it's also essential that psychologists treat mindfulness as a serious mental health care approach and avoid judging anyone that has tried the practice. They should be able to guide their patients through their journey on mindfulness and inform themselves about what mindfulness can do for the patients. It is time for mindfulness experts and researchers to stop working individually and come together to leverage the power of both disciplines and help those that they want to help. That is, if they really care about them. If we keep ignoring the downsides of mindfulness and on the other hand overhyping its benefits, we risk losing this tool that has helped millions and has the potential to help more people. I do think that the MYRIAD study has done irreparable damage to mindfulness. Imagine a researcher trying to justify spending money on a research project when they have this other study that just wasted $7 million, and all because it was badly planned. I really hope mindfulness can make a comeback from this. I have left the resources that I've used for this in the description below. Let me know if you had experience the benefits or side effects of mindfulness and how have you dealt with them, and what type of support have you had from mindfulness practitioners.